Yes, indeed. I shall make it so.
I'm not going to kill whack him any harder!
Just like that.
That's right.
No,
Yes.
that dog won't hunt.
Not even close.
Spot on.
Finish them!
Got to try something else.
Just like that.
This thing isn't doing the job.
It's even scarier than in my dreams. I'm not sure I can.
Gilded Vale got its name from the way the wheat fields used to look in the sun. But this place really is gilded. Might as well be a different world. Well, hard to miss what you can barely remember. All I know is my life took a turn when this world came stomping into mine. These great people got a funny way of passing on. They disappear from the world, but leave their problems behind for the rest of us to deal with. I guess maybe that's one good thing that's come out of this. Well, at least for me. I got something to do with my life that doesn't involve hauling or shoveling. The whole world's about to face the biggest test it ever saw. What Aethys is doing, it's gonna change everything. We may not survive. Kith, I mean. You know, I broke a wheel once too. First thing I thought of when we learned what Aethys was doing. My mom had this spinning wheel, and she loved it. Well, I was playing with it in the way a young child might when his parents are out, and that wheel came right off. It wouldn't go back into place, so I pushed it harder, and pretty soon I'd broken off a spoke. Broke off 3 more trying to fix that. Anyway, I got whipped pretty good for it. That wheel was never the same, even after my dad fixed it. I used to think of the gods as being like parents to all of us. And now I know better. They're children, playing while their folks are gone.
5 years ago, you controlled the destiny of thousands of souls in Sun and Shadow. But the choice you make today shall define the fate of every living thing in Aora. And to think of all the times I've asked you the same question. I suppose if it were up to me, I'd want to ensure that Kith are free to define their own future. To triumph or fail by our own decisions. But it isn't up to me. I know you'll choose wisely. And no matter what happens, it's been an honor journeying with you. Again.
We gonna do this or what? We've made it this far, yet we're still alive. Might as well square off with my god before our luck runs dry. I'll hold you to that. It didn't work so good at Mogren's teeth, no? But sure, we can try to sway my god's will again. Well, if anyone could do it, I reckon it'd be you. Tell me, Watcher, can there be a god of light and birth if souls themselves can no longer be reborn? I thought it'd be different how it turned out, but I couldn't dream of any other way. Now then, shall we go face my god for one last time? Find out what it is we can or can't do in these end times. Whether we're meant to wither or thrive. Consider me your second shadow.
I shall make it so.
The machine controlling the storm winds down. The clattering of its machinery settles into a low whir and then, at last, hiccups to a halt. Beyond the tower, the black, roiling clouds of Andra's mortar roll away from the ancient city of Ukaizo, with only a tired sigh of wind to see them off. And on that last breath of wind, comes to you a familiar sound. The ring of a bell. The bell's ringing is soft, not the clangor and torrent you've grown used to. It calls to your soul, and your soul yearns to follow it. Your soul flees from your body and into the beyond, chasing that sound. It leads you at last to Bareth's realm, to that cold platform and room of endless doors.
Watcher, your journey nears its conclusion.
The pallid night stands before you, her gaunt face impassive.
You rush headlong toward the end. Do you ever pause to consider where it is you are headed? Soon you will confront Aethys for what will likely be the final time, and you will do so as the Herald of Bareth, the only creature on the face of Eora to whom he will listen. Remember that.
The pallid night inclines her head to you, black hair hanging lank in her face. She steps back and cedes the floor to Helia with a small, resigned sigh.
If Aethys truly intends to go through with his mad plan to destroy the Wheel, a generation's worth of souls will be trapped in the in-between. So many would suffer. How can Aethys be so cruel? He cannot just abandon them. Aethys must help the Kith find a quick solution.
Abaddon strides forward.
Aethys thrust this crisis on the Kith. They did not bring it upon themselves. Their only mistake was entrusting us to watch over them. Who will help them rebuild their world now?
Aethys will reveal every secret of the gods. Will Kith be able to change the established order if they have no wonder to inspire them? Aethys must help them resolve this quickly, lest every one of Eora's few remaining mysteries be laid plain.
You have misgivings. Good. You should be wary of any help Aethys might offer you. With the wheel destroyed, Kith will tear themselves apart. It is the gods' duty to prevent that happening, lest they doom us all. And as Kith must be ruled, so too must the gods. I say that if Aethys is so eager to throw down the mantle of power and step aside, I shall take my rightful place as Queen of the Gods again.
Kith are strongest when they follow our lead, and we are strongest when we lead in turn. United in purpose with the gods, Kith can accomplish things that without us, they could never have even begun. They must be shown their boundaries to surpass them.
Kith will not solve Aethys' puzzle on their own. And without an established order to fight against, the bonds that bind them dissolve, and they fight amongst themselves. Boudica's firm hand is but the motherly smothering of Helia by another name. Mortals should have no special advantages. Only once Kith have striven to improve themselves through trial will they truly know their measure. Kith must suffer to find their strength if they are to survive the world into which Aethys drags them. Our intervention in your struggle would be a cruelty and counter to our purpose.
He lets his words hang in the air for a moment. Gaze, level with your own.
Indeed. Kith must discover for themselves what it is they are worth, and of what it is they are capable. What we do for them, they do not learn for themselves. Trial breeds ingenuity. If our work of generations was not in vain, Kith will succeed in spite of Aethys' actions. I have faith in Kith's ability to meet Aethys' challenge. Do not mistake my words for indifference, Watcher. They are born from a fierce belief in your potential.
And yet you come to Ukaizo with only the Huana at your back. All that Kith stand to lose. And even then, your leaders could not join hands, squabbling instead over prestige and resources. You believe that will change when my final death comes calling? You are a greater fool than I thought. Margren is blinded by her affection for mortals. She does not see that entropy is the destiny of all things. If Aethys were wise, he would destroy everything. End life, end reincarnation, end death. Kith have had their chance. It is time to let silence reign.
As Rimmergon's words fade, the Pallid Knight returns. She no longer towers over you, a giant even among the gods, but meets you at your height. She lets the arms crossed over her chest fall to her sides. She speaks to you openly, plainly, an expression almost like tenderness, turning up the corners of her lips.
Well, Watcher, you know where we stand. What do you believe?
The Pallid Knight raises one dark eyebrow.
I did not conjure the wheel as you know it now from the air. It was built slowly, with great deliberation by Kith. It is as much your wheel as mine. Now the time has come for us to part, Watcher. I laid upon you a difficult duty, and I know you desire to be free of it. You will be in time, but not now. You have work to do yet. You are no stranger to hard choices. You killed Theos, and when his soul was laid bare before you, you chose to destroy his memories. You freed him from his past. Remember the strength it took to make that choice, and know that you alone may sway Aethys now. When you stand before him, choose your words carefully.
The gods depart one by one in brooding silence. A solitary figure remains perfectly still until the last of her colleagues is out of earshot. Woedica peers down at you, a triumphant grin splitting her weathered features.
Bareth is a fool if she thinks I'll let her enjoy the last word. You were trusted with a heavy responsibility, Watcher. Speaking for mortals, and representing their interests in the future to come. You weren't wrong to trust the Huana. They built their society to last, but that hasn't stopped their tribes from buckling under the pressure of foreign occupation. How many of her people did Queen Onakaze imperil while she placated her enemies? How close did her simpleton brother come to drawing his weapon at every negotiation? Then there's the deplorable incident at the Powder House. And yet, they have earned your confidence in a gamble that could decide the fate of all mortals. Why is that? Uh-huh. Consider my curiosity appeased. For now, in our grandest plans, you are a singularly unpredictable variable. You play a dangerous game by investing your hope in others. Deception and failure are woven into the fabric of mortals. I can safely promise that they will disappoint you before long. I look forward to watching the bright cheer fade from your eyes under cold, unforgiving reality. Whether you heeded my wisdom or not, everything you've done to get this far has informed our view of mortal kind. I hope you're satisfied with your performance. We've learned much from each other. Nothing could convince me that mortals are equipped to steward their future. Your efforts to prove me wrong were admirable, and my detractors will likely use your example to oppose my rule. The Huana may reign over this archipelago for now, but Eora is vaster than they know. A difficult road lies ahead of me. Your alliances have made proving my argument an uphill battle. Well done, I suppose. Aethys will no doubt have a sunnier outlook on mortals and their chances of success. He already has everything he wants, so go and listen to his empty-headed idealism. The rest of us will be sharpening our blades, preparing for the future he lays out for us.
You keep falling asleep on me, I'm gonna have to start walking behind you with a pillow. Oh, by the way, the storm's gone. Also, I think Aethys has ended the world. It seems we're all still here.
God's darnation! My head!
So now it comes to this, Aimiko. You think to steal my golden dream, but I will not allow it to happen.
My gratitude is yours for disabling the storms. It seems I did not require Rivan's ship to reach Ukaizo in the end. You jest in the face of your death, huh? Allow me to admit how grandly I will enjoy ending you. Until the next life? Nor, perhaps not, considering.
Say your prayers!
May I be a candle in the night.
Well, that's not it.
Ixie on us!
Let us end this. Lavaru beyond seek.
Just like that.
Lavaru beyond seek.
Yeah? Uh-huh.
You descend into the ancient winding streets of Ukaizo. Battered by storms for thousands of years, the ruins bear the marks of their role as the lone witnesses of the god's great secret at the center of the city. The houses and boulevards are pierced by great spears of luminous Audra. There are no ashen bodies, no birds, no sign or sound of any life. But with every step, the rhythmic pounding in the distance draws nearer. Soon, you can feel the vibration traveling up your spine. As you approach the center of the city, the weathered architecture gives way to more luminous Audra, piercing the ruins, eventually overtaking them entirely. Cresting the top of a fallen tower, you finally get a clear view of Aethys. He stands, legs astride, next to a great stone monument ringed with 11 cavernous alcoves. All but 3 hold a gargantuan skeleton, bones scrubbed clean by the city's storms. An immense Anguithan machine floats above the monument, suspended by invisible energy emanating from a well of light beneath it. Great brass rings spin around a core of metal and Audra at the machine's center. Periodically, Aethys's massive arms swing back. The movement alone is enough to draw great gusts of wind toward him. When they come down on the machine, the impacts are accompanied by eruptions of electricity, fire, and smoke. The hundreds of luminous Audra pillars across Ukaizo sympathetically dim in a rippling wave that spreads out from the machine. The only safe route to the god is a steep ascent along a monstrous pillar of luminous Audra. Intertwined with fragments of Ukaizo's ruins that it has carried through the centuries, the pillar bends in a long arc, towering above the machine. The pillar levels out near Aethys's head, a silent observer to the destruction of the machine it has grown beside over thousands of years. You weave your way along a treacherous rain-slicked path up the pillar's skyward side. As you arrive at the top, you catch Aethys's attention. fist pulled back. He pauses to observe you. With the same gentleness he showed at Ashen Maw, he lowers his arm and turns toward you.
Strange to see Ukaizo in this way. It may be hard to picture, but this city was once full of life. The Huana, yes, but also Kith from many other cultures. Great hanging trees shadowed these boulevards. Gardens sprawled across the open rooftops. Each spring, a festival procession would wind its way from the hillside into this valley. The celebrants would pass through a steep walk among the stalls of foreign merchants, flowers falling upon them from all sides. All people of all nations, together in a celebration of new life. Such was the power and beauty of lost Ukaizo.
If we don't fix this mess you're about to cause, the whole world is gonna look this bad. I mean, it's a mighty heavy load you're putting on our shoulders. I just hope we can carry it.
As long as there are people like you in this world, Adair, I truly do. This power has always been in the grasp of mortals. Now you will finally be aware of it. Now you will be able to decide what to do with it.
Gone, please, I'm begging you. What do I do following this? How am I to best serve those still living, to improve our future chances of survival?
The Deadfire and the Eastern Reach are full of animancers, women and men with brilliant minds who can solve this great problem. They will also need people with brilliant souls, like you, Shodi. People who can tend to the spiritual needs of the world in a time of fear and desperation. Remember, the flame you bear is not only light, but warmth. Provide comfort to all who need it.
What right do you have to do this? Destroy the wheel and leave us with nothing? Without even knowing what will come next?
Aloth, we are all gods and mortals, responsible for our own actions. But inaction carries its own moral responsibility. It is a burden I have carried for far too long. One must always do as their conscience dictates, even if that means abdicating a position of power. But what of you, Watcher? Why have you followed me? Have you come to bear witness to the breaking of the wheel? Mortals are already inspired. It is what has pushed them on for hundreds of generations to reach this point in time. Animancy is poised to go far beyond what we Ingwithans ever discovered. Why does Helia think I should lend more power to mortals? As do I. From where should mortals draw their inspiration? Very well, Watcher. I will ensure that mortals are inspired by my passing, that my power not be expended in vain. Indulge me in a moment's curiosity. There is something I wish to know about Eora, about Kith, that I can only learn through your eyes. You followed me all this way, dodging an armada, navigating an impenetrable wall of storms, voyaging across uncharted seas, with the machinations of gods echoing in your ears, all the while trusting in the institutions of Kith to get you this far, and earning their trust in turn. Whatever else happens this day, that much is remarkable.
I believe that mortals possess the strength to collaborate and shape a future of their own design. Not all of my brothers and sisters agree. By relying on others and coming together in a time of crisis, you illustrate my point. The gods will witness you and question their assumptions about how responsible, empathetic, and sophisticated mortals can be. What inspired your decision, Watcher? Did the choice echo your foundational beliefs? Or were you influenced by observation? Boudica has been especially active since the downfall of her favorite operative. Have you ever considered that she is mentoring his replacement? My brothers and sisters never act when the gains are strictly short-term. If Boudica's shadow has fallen upon you, that can only mean she recognizes your potential to further her ambition. I thank you for your perspective. Yours is not the only opinion that concerns me, but for the moment, it offers much to consider. All I ever wanted for mortals was growth, transformation. Once, my brothers and sisters shared this goal. Some have forgotten themselves, giving into fatalism or tyranny. Others have succumbed to apathy. It brings me great sorrow that crisis is the only way to set the future in motion. Would that I could pass the responsibility of heralding your darkest hour to another. Never forget that trust and coordination between mortals brought you to this place. Your future is built on a foundation of hope, and you have laid the first stone. I must attend to my final work now. I cannot delay any longer. You have carried a heavy burden across the Deadfire, Watcher. Before I go, I would rid you of it. You are free now, as free as any of us can be. Many will come to you for help in the years ahead. Animancers, priests, even the gods themselves. I have great hope for you, but always remember that your future is for you to decide. Use your freedom well.
Aethys squares himself to the machine. As you move to a safe distance, he draws his fists back and resumes his assault. The blows rain down with increased fervor, but the machine perseveres in spite of his efforts. Spreading his arms wide, Aethys draws power from the luminous Audra clustered around the valley. The energy courses through his body, limbs overflowing with intense light and waves of heat. He returns to his task, each strike bringing with it the sound of cracking stone and twisting metal, the flickering of luminous Audra across Ukaizo. As the ancient machine finally begins to succumb to his strength, so too does Aethys's body, built to withstand the passage of thousands of years. The great Audra statue has finally been pushed beyond its limits. Cracks appear along the hands, then race up the arms. Aethys does not slow his assault, but continues unabated. Its brass rings twisted. The machine spins erratically but withstands the relentless barrage. Aethys stands astride it and pummels the base of the machine. Soul energy begins to flare out from the machine's heart, warping the air with the intense heat. Aethys drives his right fist into the machine's center, the core of metal and Audra. The god lets out a deafening shout, something between a cry of anguish and a roar of exultation. You see Aethys's arm shatter upward from his hand through his elbow. A flash of light and heat bursts from the core, accompanied by a cacophony of destruction. The moment passes. As Aethys's shout echoes throughout the valley, your eyes begin to recover. The god's work is accomplished. The great machine of Ukaizo has been destroyed. The wheel has been unmade. As Aethys's voice fades, the enormity of what you've accomplished sinks in. You have confronted a god. You have rediscovered the ancient city where the wheel was forged, and you have seen the wheel shattered. What comes next is uncertain, but already the legend spreads of the Watcher who survived Andra's mortar and stood toe-to-toe with Aethys. On your recommendation, Aethys disperses his essence, and that of the thousands of souls within him, to centers of knowledge and learning around the world. Animancers, engineers, wizards, and scholars of all stripes make astounding breakthroughs in understanding and harnessing the phenomena that govern Aora. While some of these developments prove beneficial to Kith, others are decidedly less so. But such is the price of innovation. What remains to be seen is how, indeed whether, they will restore the cycle Aethys has broken. Reclaiming Ukaizo is both a symbolic and a practical victory for the Huana. The ancient city is a potent reminder of their people's ancient glory, and it promises to be a much more easily defensible capital, especially with the storm controls of Andra's Spire close at hand. The other tribes unite under the Kahanga and dedicate themselves to rebuilding Ukaizo and relearning its secrets. The Valian Trading Company continues its operations in Deadfire, though it is forced to renegotiate many of its contracts with the newly empowered Huana Crown. Company leadership finds that the new terms are much more favorable to the tribes than to their own interests in the region. Due to these changes, the Valian Trading Company eventually withdraws most of its people from Deadfire. The Royal Deadfire Company is allowed to continue trading in the archipelago, though they are forced to submit most of their outposts and fortifications to Huana leadership. The storms across the Rawatayan mainland subside along with those of Andra's mortar. However, Rawatai regards this respite with a wary eye, ever mindful that the machinery at Andra's Spire remains under their foes' control. The battle at Andra's mortar leaves the fleet of the Principe Sen Patrena in shambles. Thus sundered, they fight among each other until they are little more than squabbling bands of pirates. They continue to harass unguarded merchant vessels, but they are fit for little more. Gone are the dreams of empire and the hunger for primacy. Despite other tensions across the archipelago, Port Maje remains a model of peaceful, productive cooperation between the Huana and the Valian Trading Company. Though they do not always agree, Governor Clario and Storm Speaker Ikawa work together for the mutual benefit of their people. As the balance of power changes in Deadfire, so too does Nekataka transform. Though the Kahanga monarchy moves its new seat of government to Ukaizo, Nekataka continues to be a busy and important city. The pirates continue smuggling food into the gullet, and the Raparu embrace their benefactors, aiding and concealing their smuggling operations. Over time, the gullet becomes a hotbed of piracy. Ukaizo reveals more about the ancient art of water shaping than the guild could have hoped to learn in another century of work. With this new knowledge, water shapers across the archipelago wield the currents and bend the waves for the pleasure and benefit of the new Huana nation. The faith of the children of the Dawnstars brightens. Aethys returned to give the world the greatest gift of all, hope. In response, they continue feeding, healing, and helping the neediest in Deadfire, just as they have for decades. It remains their holy mission, and they will persevere in love and faith. Ships continue to disappear at the southeastern fringe of the archipelago, and stories circulate of a colony of vampires and gulls preying on their crews. The Queen soon sends a contingent of her bravest warriors who end the horrors of Splintered Reef. The Deadflow, an iceberg in the southern sea, continues to grow unchecked. As the ice spreads, so too do wild tales of a hideous dragon rampaging across the Deadfire. Word spreads of the primal island of Kazuwari, once home to an arena that hosted bloody competitions and fearsome ordeals. Wild tales whisper that the spilled blood attracted a terrible beast of scale and fang that slaughtered those gathered at the island before destroying the great enchanted statue that oversaw the island's trials. Absent its guiding voice, Kazuwari descends into anarchy. A vast monstrosity of tentacles and flesh erupts from the Black Isles in the eastern Deadfire, before vanishing into the depths. None know what drives the titanic beast, nor where it will appear next, or what destruction it might wreak when it rises. Though your adventures alter the destiny of Aora and the balance of power in Deadfire, they also leave a lasting mark on those who travel at your side. Your companions find themselves changed, in ways both big and small. In the days sailing back from Ukaizo, Adair finds himself disillusioned with all gods, his own above all. Where the gods have touched Deadfire, he sees only destruction, loss, and emptiness. He casts off all symbols of Aethys, and even begins refusing to use his name. Ultimately, he chooses to remain with you on the Defiant, knowing if any mortal is to have the final word in a conflict with the gods, it will be the Watcher of Cadnua. Shodi is not a priestess who understands the meaning of subtlety. As such, she makes her girlish crush on Adair painfully obvious from the moment she first sets eyes on the strapping fighter. Early in your travels, Adair appears discomforted by her persistent flirting. He often grimaces when she sidles up to him, and he takes endless pains to keep their conversations terse and to the point. But after a little smoothing on your part to nudge them in the right direction, Adair makes an effort to view Shodi with an open mind. And Shodi begins teasing the veteran fighter in a more companionable and less amorous manner. After saving each other's hides a couple times and sharing more than a few laughs, the two form an easy, and you suspect, lifelong friendship. Shodi's journey through the Deadfire on your ship is an eye-opening experience for the sheltered farm girl. After many souls harvested, more lives aided, and much adventure had, the priestess declares her intent to rejoin her fellow missionaries at the Temple of Gon in Nekataka. Following a shy grin and an overzealous handshake, Shodi leaves you with an open invitation to visit her anytime. It is some months later when she pens you a missive. Can you hardly believe it? Her chicken scratch handwriting reads. Saw when sailing for distant lands. She's leaving me in charge of the temple. I've been named the High Priestess of Gon. Aloth renews his commitment to destroying the Leaden Key. With the wheel broken, loosening the god's stranglehold on Kith is more urgent than ever. It is a lofty goal, and one he does not expect to finish in his lifetime. But if there's one thing he's learned from the Watcher, it's that a single person can change the world. Seraphin seems little impacted by your journey. Always knew the gods were larger than me, he tells you, on the evening he decides to part from your company. He's too long put aside those he cares most for. He confesses over a bottle of rum, and he's got leagues to sail to make it right. The following morning, he's gone, leaving only a crude stick figure rendering of Aethys, scrawled into the hull to mark his passage. After reporting back to her superiors for the Watcher's actions against the Valian Trading Company, Palagina is rewarded with reassignment home to the Valian Republics. She spends the next several years as the head of the household guard for the Duke of Anchenze. In this role, she is often lauded for her courage and loyalty. Even with all of the praise, there are still times when she cannot help but feel she could have had more influence on what transpired in the Deadfire. Pleased with the Navy's conduct throughout the Deadfire campaign, Maya returns to active duty. She can find a free drink and a sharp salute anywhere she goes in Rawatayan territory. In recognition of her performance, the Navy attempts to give Maya less strenuous work. She flatly refuses, throwing herself into the fray whenever she can. Her rifle never has time to cool. She looks forward to seeing her brother again. So does Ashiza. Takehu distances himself from the problems of the Deadfire, giving the tribes a reprieve from godlike omens. And Gati's silence speaks volumes. The Huana grow to rely on each other, paving a new way forward divorced from their traditions. Soon after he departs Nekataka, distant tribes report of unusual and salacious water sculptures appearing on the shores. These quaint visitations are widely celebrated, the identity of the artist ever an open question. He bids you farewell, suggesting that you seek your next adventure in a brothel or tavern, where consequences begin and end at the front door. He sounds eager to leave old conflicts in the past. Your pursuit of Aethys and your journey to Ukaizo signal the end of forces that have shaped the lives of Kith and the course of nations. The cycle of reincarnation has been broken. The storms of Andra's mortar have calmed. Yet each ending promises a new beginning. As the sun rises over Ukaizo, Kith turn their gaze eastward, wondering at what lies beyond, and at the world they will fashion for themselves. As the Watcher of Cadnua and the former Herald of Bareth, you return to your ship and begin the long journey home. You hope for calm weather.